She was my friend and my teacher.
Good afternoon. I'm Reverend Dorsey Blake, the presiding minister of the Church for the Fellowship of All Peoples here in San Francisco, our nation's first totally interracial, interfaith congregation. Welcome to this celebration of the life of Aileen Clarke Hernandez. What an awesome person she was, and we need to be here to celebrate. We gather here today because we need to do so. We mourn the passing of a great light and great life, one who illumined the path of justice, compassion, right living for so many years. One who stirred waters leading to healing and wholeness, creating consciousness among ourselves and others that would ready us for the struggles ahead. We must gather to remember such a pioneering, prophetic, and powerful life that helped this nation and the world see more clearly its possibilities and responsibilities. When we leave this place, let us not leave satisfied with how we have reviewed this great life and found meaning for our own. Rather, remind us of the needs that still exist, the task still to be undertaken, the work still to be done. Let us depart, O fashioner of our existence, dissatisfied with the way things are, dissatisfied and rededicated to living with such purpose, such tenacious courage, such profound commitment, such unbounded creativity, and such contagious imagination that, in the words of Mrs. Sue Bailey Thurman, there will be no past greater than our future. Amen.
I was always told when I was growing up that I had choices, even when really I didn't have a whole lot of them at the time, that it was what I did that would make a difference in my life. Our family turned out to be the only African-American family in the community. At one point in time, they were passing a petition around to get our family out of there because they didn't want black people to be in the neighborhood. My mother took me by the hand and walked me over to the house of the man who had started the petition. And she gave him a lecture about our family and why we were there and all the rest, and then simply turned and went out. And so I learned something that day, although I was very little at that stage. I arrive at my first political science class. The teacher looks down at me and then he says, if you are not prepared to do all of the work that we're talking about, I would suggest that you leave now and sign up for home economics. And I look around and for the first time I discover I'm the only girl in the room. I would not move because I knew my mother would never forgive me if I did. I did very well in college and I saw an ad that said, would you like a job that doesn't pay a lot of money but gives lots of satisfaction to you in terms of what you're doing in the society? And I said, they're talking to me. It turns out to be the International Ladies Garment Workers Union. So I went to California and doing work organizing. The status of the women in the union was very simple. They did certain kinds of jobs and the men did the other jobs. And it turned out that the jobs that the women did got paid less and the ones that the men did got paid more. women were beginning to push back about whether or not they had a role in the society that needed to be addressed as well. And laws were being passed.
President Kennedy today signed a bill making it illegal to pay a woman less than a man for the same job.
It was a huge big deal. Discrimination against women is now to be illegal too. Stewardesses filed a complaint of discrimination. They couldn't be married and stay on the airlines. They couldn't gain any weight. When they were no longer beautiful in the eyes of the people, they were gone. Women started filing in large numbers. Newspapers had ads, help wanted male, help wanted female, and we needed to do something about it. Some of our commissioners were not taking action because essentially they were dealing with the race issues that they were familiar with. They were not familiar with the discrimination against women. It was totally frustrating. So they go up to Betty Friedan's room, and they agreed that the women need to rise up and say something, or nothing is going to occur. And the group grew a little bit. It started with about 5 at lunch. It got to 15 or so in the evening, and there was agreement that in October they would have a national conference and create a new organization. Betty Friedan came up with the name National Organization for Women. The Now people asked me to join. And so I joined. I was president of N.O.W. from 1970 through 1971. We, in this case, when I'm talking about we, women of color who were in N.O.W. had decided that we needed to come together in order to find a way of getting more connection between the women who were mostly white and the women who were women of color. And so I recommended that we set up a workshop to train women who were rich and who had privilege about some of the issues that were different for the women of color than they were for the women who were white. And we set them up, and we trained a lot of people about what are the issues, where is the break between those separate groups of women. And the person at that time that was running for the presidency had pulled her team together, and there were no women of color on the team. And so I said, if you can't have the time to recognize the differences in women that need to be addressed as well as the things that are similar, that's not going to be a good way for the movement to go. So I wrote a letter and told them exactly that I thought it was unfortunate that when asked about it, she said, well, she had to have people that she could trust, people that she knew and could trust. I said, I think that's the wrong thing for now to say. And I explained this to one of the African-American groups that was meeting at that period of time. And I said, I thought it would be a good idea not to bring new people into N.O.W., because that's what they were trying to do, bring a whole lot of new people in, until we got a commitment from N.O.W. to make sure that women of color would be encouraged to be part of that. I didn't quit the movement, and I didn't quit N.O.W., but I was not just going to be involved and sit there and not let the things like that happen and not say something about it.
Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land. I ain't gonna let no injunction turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let no injunction turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let no racism turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let no racism turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let no hatred turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let no hatred turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let no injustice turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let no injustice turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land.
Paula West. Paula, we thank you. The right song, the right tempo, the right mood to follow the Queen Lady. They go together. Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Belva Davis, long time friend of, as you can guess, long time friend of Eileen's. She's had me under a spell for the last 10 days. That's how many days we worked on this event. For no one else would I have stepped out on a limb of a week to pull together something that would be worthy of a woman of Eileen's status. She was worthy of it all. I didn't want us to forget for a moment that Aileen had lived among us and lives within us, and when she commands, you do what she say. Obviously, she spoke to me. But I also want to say our thanks to Reverend Blake for being with us from the Church for the Fellowship of All Peoples. One of the reasons we chose Dr. Blake was because he is the pastor of the church that Howard Thurman, who we all know, our leader in bringing us together not only along racial lines, but religious lines and all other lines. And so we thank you, Dr. Blake. Also on the piano, and you'll hear from him a little bit later, his brother, Carl Blake, classical pianist who will play for us wonderful music. And the video was a little bit, I kept thinking it and I wanted to cut it and I thought, oh, but Aileen would have demanded to be a star at her own event. So I just decided she should star. And I hope that we all could follow her life. We didn't have to write an obituary. She told it to us. And that is authentic as you can get. So we thank you again for gathering with us. You will hear thanks all evening for a number of people. But a special thanks to the next person to come to the microphone, the Reverend Charlotte Myers. She is the president of Black Women Stirring, the president of the committee that's sponsoring this event today in Eileen's honor of Black Women Stirring the Waters. And I don't know who came up with that title, but I suspect it was probably Aileen. You can tell from there she was challenging challenging women of all colors to stand up for themselves and to fight. So please welcome Reverend Charlotte Meyer.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for coming. We are delighted that you are here. I'm Reverend Charlotte Myers, and I'm representing the Vision Committee of Black Women Stirring the Waters. Aileen Hernandez organized workers for better wages and battled sex discrimination from inside the government and racial discrimination from the ranks of the contemporary women's movement. She went on to mentor leaders of today's women's movement and build networks for justice at City Hall in Statehouse corridors, and within the United Nations, A.C.L.U, Intertribal Council, and much more. We miss her wit. We miss her wisdom and her graciousness. We were privileged to walk by her side. Aileen Hernandez and Clara Stanton Jones founded Black Women Stirring the Waters in June of 1984. The current Vision Committee continues to regularly convene forums that support purposeful dialogue as a tool to build endurance and foster success. Today you have responded to our invitation to honor the life and the achievements of our founder. She was a dear friend and a mentor who built those networks for justice as a role model for all of us. Will the women of the Vision Committee of Black Women Stirring the Waters please stand? Will you please remain standing? Will the women of Black Women Stirring the Waters, all of our members, please stand? And now I'm going to ask that the mayor for the day step forward. Will Malia Cohen please come forward?
Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of Black Women Stirring the Waters, we wish to present this certificate of appreciation to Mayor Edwin Lee.
Thank you.
And the staff of the Office of the Mayor.
Thank you.
For the services and the support of putting the events of today together.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. You want me to speak up? Okay. What an honor. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. In a 1982 speech, Dr. Hernandez said, quote, "I believe very firmly that Black women are like no other women in the world. And one of the things that make us so different is that we have managed to survive in one of the most hostile worlds there ever was. And we survive. And we survive in that world and with the understanding that racism and sexism is rampant." These are the words of Dr. Aileen Hernandez. Appropriate words, if you think about it, when you think where we are today. My name is Malia Cohen, and I stand before you on the shoulders of many women that we don't know the names of. But for today's purposes, I stand on the shoulders of Dr. Aileen Hernandez. And I want to welcome you on behalf of the mayor who could not be with us today. Welcome you to the People's Palace, to City Hall. It is these very halls, this very chamber upstairs that Dr. Hernandez spent many hours in meetings, counseling, coaching, lecturing, and inspiring generations to come. So it is so appropriate that we hold a life celebration right here in the North Light Court. I want to thank the organizing committee for pulling this together in a very short period of time. I don't know about you, but was that documentary not beautiful? Did it not capture the spirit of something that binds us all together, whether we're Black or white, male or female? And that is what Dr. Hernandez was about. It is a privilege to stand here. I want to also acknowledge the many dignitaries, those that are elected currently, those that are formally elected, and if there are any young people in here, the future elected San Francisco family. I want to recognize the family of Dr. Hernandez. Thank you for lending us a warrior, an incredible woman that inspired many people, including myself. Today, ironically, there is discussion in Europe as to whether or not a woman should be fired if she wears high heels or if she does not wear high heels. I agree with you. But I use that only as an example, one, to illustrate how far we truly have come since the beginning of the establishment of the National Organization of Women, but most importantly to highlight how much further we must continue to go. We are not done, ladies and gentlemen. The work is laid out before us. Until every woman earns the same wage as a man, we must continue to fight. Until every woman has the ability to get up and run for office and be taken seriously just as a man, we must continue to fight. And for every other injustice that goes out there against women, particularly black women, that is our call to action. When you think about the life and time and the contribution of Aileen Hernandez, think about that. Then roll up your sleeves and get to work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Supervisor Malia Cohen. There were organizations that we know of. Aileen told them about us. There were organizations you heard about. But you might not know that she was a strong supporter, regular visit, coming there time after time in times of crises to help people at Glide Memorial Church. That, of course, is in our town, the center of where we can meet and greet and watch the rehabilitation of people from every walk of life, no matter what the problem is. Somehow, Glide will either start a program or have a program already going for you. So I am going to ask now the man who guided Glide for all these years to now speak to us about what it's like to be a friend to a woman like Aileen. It costs you usually, I don't think Glide ever got, indeed, an opportunity to pay her back as much as they wanted to because she was so straightforward. The Reverend Cecil Williams.
Aileen Hernandez, what a woman. What a spokesperson. What a voice. What a person. What a human being. What a sister. All of these and many more. Because she decided that she was going to make sure that the have-nots were also finding ways by which they would get support, and radical support, and good support, and certainly great support, to make sure that these people who are in need had their needs met. And often she would go not only to Glide but to other community programs, reaching out, touching lives, saying to the people, we must overturn those things that go against our humanity, those things which we would like to happen, but many times will not happen unless we continue the struggle, unless we continue to work with each other, unless we continue to find each other, unless we continue to be radical, if at all possible. Sometimes we have to be a little radical. Is there a possibility of a little radical taking place? A little radical taking place. I know a number of us got in trouble. I tried to get arrested here in San Francisco 6 times. And Willie Brown came to my support every time. So I'm saying essentially that Aileen Hernandez was the person who touched the lives of people. Every week she would come by Glide and she would find a place to work, and she worked, and she put forth the effort and said to people I am here, and I'm going to continue to come here. And even before she got to Glide, she would call and say, I'm coming. I'm coming to work, Cecil. I'm coming to work, people. I want you to know that I'm not afraid. I want to stand with you, and we will stand together. And we did stand together on a number of occasions. So I am saying to you today that the community of friends, the community of people, the people who stood up and said, San Francisco still got a long ways to go. Well, still I want to announce to you today that San Francisco still got a long ways to go. And we must find ways to stand up and say to our brothers and sisters, you are those who can steal away, but we must also be those who will stand up and stand up and stand up. And the time has come for us to stand up. Yeah, we're going to stand up. We're going to stand up now. We're going to stand up because Aileen Hernandez stood up and never gave in and never gave up. Thank you, my sister. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much. The one thing about having a woman with a life is complex and going in all directions. You can find people in all walks of life that will have the right thing to say. 3 women who would have loved to have been here today to say the right thing about her are unable to be here because we live in Trump times. And living in Trump times, if you're in Washington and you have a responsible position, you're going to stay there and keep your eye on the ball. So today, here in their stead are, and what more could they do but send their children to be with us? And I understand this is the first time we have assembled this group together, but here to speak for her mom and to offer a resolution to the family of Aileen is Christine Pelosi, Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi's daughter.
Greetings to the family. Thank you, Belva. Thank you to the mayors, past, present, and future, assembled among us. And thank you to everybody here who is part of the resistance. I was telling Gloria Steinem that I talked to my mom briefly this morning before I came over, and in about 45 seconds we had covered the Muslim ban, the restrictions on Khizr Khan's travel, and the efforts to gut Medicare and Medicaid to provide a transfer of wealth to the very wealthiest Americans, and her efforts to fight all of those. And that was just 45 seconds. That was just a Monday morning in America. But as Tony and Catherine can attest, our moms are hard at work doing your work, doing Eileen's work, because it is so critically important that everybody step up and that everybody be a part of this. We each and all have a role to play, and Aileen Hernandez certainly taught us that. And I want to read a brief note that my mother wrote. Dear friends, please accept my warm greetings from Washington, D.C., where we are fighting in the Congress for the vision and values to which Aileen Hernandez dedicated her life: liberty and justice for all. Aileen Hernandez takes her place among the courageous patriots who have challenged and strengthened our great democracy. As a union organizer, civil rights champion, and women's rights leader for more than 6 decades, Aileen has been a source of pride and inspiration for generations of women and girls. Aileen's call to equality rings as clear today as it did when she first spoke out. In her memory, let us recommit to moving America closer to fulfilling the promise of equality, which is our heritage and our hope. With best regards and love, Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi.
And if there's another woman ever on the hot seat, it's the mother of the next speaker. And of course, that is Senator Dianne Feinstein. The word investigate has probably been used more than at any time in history. So here, please welcome Catherine Feinstein.
I have to say it's a real honor for me to be here. Sometimes it's not quite so when I am asked to take my mother's place. One, because her place is very hard to take, and two, because I'm not always in such an auspicious group as is this one. And yes, my mother is in Washington, where she's supposed to be, representing the 41 million people that make up California. But I look out here and I see faces and have said hello to people, and it does bring tears to my eyes, because this will always be her home. This will always be her place of gathering, and you will always be all of her people. It's just a wonderful sea of faces to see before me today, so I feel extremely honored. My mother and I spoke too, although unlike Christine, we spoke last night, so she really has such incredibly fond memories of Aileen, and for her lifetime devotion to protecting, promoting, fighting for, advocating civil rights and women's rights. And she asked, as I do have a proclamation that has very difficult to read but very fancy writing on it to present to Aileen's family, I want to read part of it to you today. In recognition and appreciation of Aileen Hernandez's outstanding lifelong career of activism, on behalf of our unions, on behalf of civil rights, and on behalf of women's rights. Aileen began her career as a union organizer in New York City and was swiftly, as we saw, noticed for her good works, soon becoming the Education and Public Relations Director for the Pacific Coast region of the International Ladies Garment Workers Union, a steadfast and passionate advocate for women's rights. She was president of the National Organization of Women in 1970 and 1971, co-founded Black Women Organized for Action in San Francisco. Aileen Hernandez's incredible compassion, devotion, and strength of character will be missed forever. And we are deeply grateful for her lifetime of service, and I am deeply grateful for her friendship. From U.S. Senator Dianne Feinstein. Thank you very much.
Next, we will rest the words and hear the music. We'll hear the music of noted composer, arranger, pianist, music educator, vocal coach, the master of the instrument, the internationally acclaimed pianist. Please welcome Dr. Carl Blake.
This musical selection, which we are going to hear, is titled Troubled Water. Written by the African-American woman composer Margaret Bond, who lived from 1933 to 1972. This composition, Troubled Water, is based on an African-American spiritual wade in the water, God's going to trouble the water. Troubled Water by Margaret Bonds.
Thank you so much, Carl. And to the next guy, his name is Tony Lee. Can you guess who his mom is? But in any case, he is here to represent, this number one fighter, someone who often tried to challenge Aileen in seeing if she could be as sharp or talking as possible. Tony Lee, come and represent your mother, Barbara Lee.
Thank you. I thought Belva forgot about me for a second, but no. Anyway, a couple things I keep hearing today: mentor, equality, fight. These are all things that Aileen stood for. My mother was a little less diplomatic with me. She called me Friday and said, "You better get your butt to San Francisco and represent me." So I'm here, and it's a great honor. So let me just read a few words from the congressional record that she's put in. Today, California's 13th Congressional District honors Aileen Hernandez's memory and her lifetime of service, working on behalf of social justice and equality. We join her loved ones in celebrating her incredible life with a promise to honor her tremendous legacy. What an amazing honor to sit here and celebrate someone's life. Just on a side note, being a business owner and the CEO of the largest minority woman-owned insurance consulting firm in the nation, Aileen and my mother and Diane and Nancy and Gloria and Catherine and all of our leaders here have allowed us to really move into the future, be a part of and a fabric of this society. Thank you so much. This is a great honor. From Barbara Lee.
Well, we come to a part of our program now. We have 9 speakers. When I put the minutes on the program to say how long they should speak, I'm sure that everybody just right away put a little X through it, but that's the way it is. You try. They are all worthy of whatever time they take up, though, my friends, because they have paid the dues to be up on the stage. Believe me, there were lots of people who wanted to participate. But these are people who are very special at some parts of Aileen's life. So you can see in your program, and I will introduce them by name only for time's sake because their resumes are far too long. But we will start with the former mayor of the city and county of San Francisco, the Mr. Willie Lewis Brown.
Good afternoon to each and every one of you. I am from the same generation as Belva and the same generation as Aileen. We were here in San Francisco in the 60s, early 70s, pretty much together. And so I stand before you echoing the voice of multiple individuals who worked with Aileen, who were guided by Aileen. And it goes all the way back to the time that the International Longshoremen and Warehouses Union was doing what they needed to do to evidence a commitment to equality. Aileen was a part of that. And so were people like Mattie Jackson, close to Aileen. Translate that with Revels Caden, Percy Moore, Leroy King, Bill Chester, and you have a phalanx of labor leaders who would follow the leadership of a woman that Mr. Johnson, then the president, put on the Equal Opportunities Commission. She was so principled, so difficult to meet her standard and her requirements for your being committed. She quit that commission, only woman on that commission, and she quit the commission because she didn't think they wanted to do the right thing. She subsequently terrorized mayors like Shelley, Alioto, Moscone, Feinstein, Agnos, Jordan, Brown, Newsom. Ed Lee was lucky. She was so committed in every way. She was very much a part of making the first black person to hold the job of being a judge in this city. She was very much a part of the effort to get the first black firefighter, the first black policeman, the first black toll collector at the bridge when you collected tolls. This woman was absolutely awesome. And so my voice is that of all of those people that were part of the time she was here and the guidance that she gave them, the inspiration that she put to them, and as stated by Reverend Cecil, who was a part of that same generation, this city is the better because of Aileen. Not just the best, but better because of Aileen.
Thank you, Mayor Brown. Here speaking on behalf of the family of Aileen, we're inviting Rudolph Lawton to come forward and say a few words to us.
Thank you, Belva. I know how close you were to her and how much time you spent with her in all these last years. Thank you, Reverend Blake, for opening this occasion with the right tone. I thank you for that, sir. On behalf of the family of Aileen, I thank all of you for being here. I must confess at the beginning, however, that I cannot be as profound as the other speakers will be because I'm family. You see, I happen to know Aileen before she became queen. I happen to know her when she's just a princess. And I didn't know her as much as all of you have known her because I knew her in bits and pieces. But as you must realize, knowing a family member in bits and pieces is just as substantial. Just seeing her upon occasion because of the blood relationship, we knew we were together. Now, the obituary in the New York Times quoted Gloria Steinem as saying that Aileen was warm, funny, and elegant, but always authentic and authoritative at the same time. Now, I can attest to all of that, and as Aileen's cousin, I'd like to give you my particular view of at least two of these aspects. First, her elegance, and then her authoritativeness. I call it feistiness, and in Jamaica, from where we originated, the word is feisty. Those of you who have any knowledge of the West Indian jargon would understand what I just said. A little bit of history. Aileen's father, Charles, and my mother, Naomi, came to the United States in the 1920s, probably the first migration from the Caribbean, for the obvious reasons, a better economic life. We went to, my mother and my father went to Manhattan. Her mother and father went to Brooklyn. Now, that's not all that far apart, but if you're a New Yorker, you know it can be very far. Thank you. You understand, don't you? All right. Okay. So we never got to meet each other. We were born and they were born, and we never knew each other at all. Particularly because during the Depression, my mother sent me and my sister to Jamaica to live so that we would not suffer the poverty which was all rampant throughout the country. However, later on I found out that Aileen's family didn't suffer the way the rest of the world did during the Depression. In fact, they did very well. Aileen's father was listed as a brush salesman, but he was more than that. He started the company as a floor sweeper, but he moved up in the company, moved up to the point where he became a manager of the company, became an expert in the manufacture and the distribution of artist brushes. And so they did very well during the Depression. And I've seen family photographs of a large touring car with wooden spoke wheels. But they had you know that too, right? During the Depression, they lived very well. They went to picnics, they went to family, they went to outings, they traveled very well. And I'm not trying to say that Aileen's family's wealth, and they did have wealth, was the cause of her elegance, but it didn't hurt. She knew the good life, even during the Depression. After the war, her father bought a big Packard automobile and a summer home in Massachusetts. So you're not talking about anybody who came from poverty, okay? But she knew and she understood. And she got radicalized when she went to Howard University, and you all know about that story. Now, to talk about the authoritativeness or the feistiness, Aileen told a story in this documentary of going to the home of a person who had originated a petition to make sure that the Clarke family would be evicted from the neighborhood in Brooklyn in which they lived. What she didn't tell you in that documentary, which she told me, was that when she went to the home of the man who had originated the petition, she and her mother went in and said, "Are you the man who originated this petition?" And he was sitting at his dining room table with his hat on and looked down and wouldn't look up at Mrs. Clarke. And so she went over to him and boxed his hat off his head and said, "Stand up when you're in the presence of a lady." Now, if that didn't teach Aileen some feistiness, I don't know what did. So there's an explanation for all of this, okay? Now, I never met Aileen until a totally different time because I had lived in Jamaica, she had lived here, and at a party in Brooklyn in 1947, a party made up primarily of young people of Jamaican ancestry, I was sitting down and I saw this very good-looking woman sitting over at about 45 degrees to my left, and I said to someone, "Who is that?" And the person said to me, "Don't you know your own cousin?" And that's the first time I met Aileen. She was 21 and I was 18. And it was as if we had known each other all our lives because of that blood relationship. Well, we saw each other a few times after that. And the Korean War came along and I went to the Navy, and when I got back after that, I found out that she was a celebrity. In my work, I came to California and decided to visit her and see how she was doing, and she took me to a place whom all of you may know, called the Altamira Hotel in South Sausalito. I'd never been there. It was then I found out that she was a queen, because when we went in, she was greeted like royalty. Everybody knew her. The maitre d' gave us the best table. So I made a few other trips to California to see her, and when we moved out to California in the year 2001, we saw each other quite a bit. I would come out to San Francisco, my wife and I would come out to San Francisco, and we'd go to different restaurants, and everywhere we went, it was obvious that I was in the presence of royalty. Now, as you know, Aileen had a Jamaican heritage, but she'd never been to Jamaica from she was 6 months old rather. And I decided I would push her a little bit because she's also always so busy doing your work. That I decided I would push her to take some time off. So we took 10 days off. We went to Jamaica in the year 2000, and I drove her around the island. I was quite familiar with the island, and I introduced her to my wife's cousin, who was the chairman of the English department at the university, and he put her on to the Women's Study Division. Well, of course, they knew who she was, and immediately a lecture was arranged. About 200 people came out to hear her, and she did her thing, right off the top of her head. From that came a radio appearance and a television appearance, which was recorded, and I've given a copy of it to her niece, of her conversation with the moderator of one of their regular programs in Jamaica. She starred again. Well, much time has gone by since then, and about 3 years ago, we noticed that there was some slippage, that Aileen wasn't the Aileen of old. And her nephew and niece, Steve and Annie, realizing that things had changed a bit in her life, decided to take charge. They took charge and they took her down to Southern California, where she lived the rest of her life. As I said to you before, what I had to say to you about Aileen could not be profound because it was just family, that's all. But I thought I'd share that with you. She remains without question the brightest star in our family, the one to whom we can point with great pride and admiration. I hope my children will achieve what she did. She was a gift to our country, a gift to you, a gift to the causes that you hold dear. Please keep her in your memory.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lawton. Thank you so much to all who have been here. Now I say to those of you fortunate enough or unlucky enough to be in this latter part, we are on a clock, and so we either hear the glide and Gloria, or we don't. It will depend upon you. I will now call, I have a list of people from different parts of her life who will, as briefly as they can, talk about their relationship and their love of Aileen. And we still have wonderful words to be said. Gloria Steinem is sitting there. The Glide Choir is standing on the side. So we will do our best to sort of pull this part together a little tighter. So, you know, for a man who's used to dealing with difficulty, this will be nothing to Tim Paulson. Tim is the executive director of the San Francisco Labor Council, and if anything, he knows how to judge a conversation at a crowd. So here we are, Tim Paulson.
Hi, everybody. I'm not Tim Paulson. I'm London Breed, President of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, and I'm honored to be here. I, like Supervisor Cohen, stand on the shoulders of an amazing woman who I've had the privilege to know and to work with. Over almost 30 years ago, the first African-American woman, Doris Ward, was elected as president of the board, and I know because of the work of Aileen then and because of the work of Aileen now is the reason why now I serve as the second African-American woman elected to the Board of Supervisors as its president. And so I am here to honor her legacy. We all know that she was a fierce advocate for women. She was a fierce advocate for the African American community, and I enjoyed an amazing time with her when I served on the San Francisco Redevelopment Agency Commission, and we worked together on the Out-Migration Task Force. She whipped those meetings into shape, and you know how we are as African Americans when we get together and we're passionate about something. Everybody has something to say, and to see her facilitate those meetings, to see her manage the groups of folks and still respect and support the ideas of each and every member of that committee was basically poetic. I was so honored to be a part of that. I am grateful to be here today. We are all here today because we know that she loved and cared about equality, and she lived it every day of her life, fighting for each and every one of us so that all of us can sit in a room like this together to celebrate. So on behalf of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, along with all the members of the Board of Supervisors, it was truly our honor to recognize her last year for her 90th birthday, to celebrate her last year for her 90th birthday. And then upon hearing about her passing, it was definitely our honor. The entire Board of Supervisors, along with Supervisor Cohen and I, we adjourned February 28th, the meeting of 2017 in her honor. To the family, thank you for taking the time to just really let her be who she is for this amazing city. We know her legacy will live on forever through each and every one of us. Thank you.
Women will lead. I didn't want to say all those naughty things just before London came on, and I knew Tim could take it. So here he is, and that's why I introduced him. Thank you, London. You're going to get your turn.
Thank you, Belva, and I am definitely not London Breed, although sometimes I wish I were. So the International Lady Garment Workers Union. Just think about that. So I'm Tim Paulson. I'm the executive director of the San Francisco Labor Council. There are over 100 unions in San Francisco, and every profession, every type of job that you can think of. And when you think of unions, you always think of good wages and picket lines and fighting for health care and what have you. But when you think of the International Ladies Garment Workers Union, and you think of Aileen Hernandez, you think of different things, the type of things that most unions should aspire to be, and that is to continue a fabric of civil rights and women's rights as part of the fabric of what it's meaning to be in the labor union and what it means to be in the labor movement. And it's as simple as that. We're here to honor her today, and on behalf of the San Francisco Labor Council, we are here to honor Aileen Hernandez and hope during these horrible times with this administration that her words and her inspiration are going to guide us during the next very difficult years where we have so much to do. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker will be Roma Guy from the Women's Intercultural Network, and then Eva Patterson from the Equal Justice Society.
Thank you, Belva. Thank you for everyone sitting here. It helps with the internal weeping that I sense in all of us and me today for the loss of a beautiful friend who welcomed me into her world, mentored me from where I came from, and taught me on how to be a healthy person, challenging opposition. And I just want to say, in relationship to the documentary, for those of you born in 1926 or even before, I want to thank you for getting us and building the resistance to Nazism, to the Depression, and to McCarthyism. Talk about a resistance. So, those of you born later than this period, welcome to Trumpism. We have our turn, all right? So here we stand, and I just wanted to make that point. And I just want to say that along the way, we need to look of those who've passed on and who gave us the spirit to live in joy, because I can tell you, I had many laughs with Aileen and her friends. And I also learned about how to bring joy while learning. And so the points that I've been asked to make is that the last project we worked on was returning home from the largest international women's movement conference in Beijing, okay? And so when we came home, we built, from the Women's Intercultural Network, we built Be in Your Perspective, international and global, but work deeply, deeply locally. So we began that process. We organized in California, not necessarily totally local, but we also invested in the Bay Area. We have 12 agenda points, and we work together. And I just want to say that I really welcome that part of our work, because I know that Aileen really, like me, even though I'm much younger, only in my 70s, that we welcome the spirit and the joy to connect globally, and that we knew our brothers and sisters were there working in their own local. And you'll see, because Trumpism is a global movement. And so we need to look to our brothers and sisters internationally, work together, and thank Aileen today, amongst others, that that's who we are, and we want to remain that way. So resist and act wherever and whomever you are, privileged or not. Thank you.
Good afternoon. When I was thinking about what I wanted to say today, there are a couple of things that happen at a memorial. One is you want to honor the person who's passed and learn about their life. But I was talking to a woman after someone in my own life had passed, and she said, one of the things we want to do is to look at the good qualities of the person who's passed and take them into ourselves. Now, you've heard so many things and so many wonderful things that Aileen has done, and I've also been asked to do something else. She was a client of mine, and she was also an ally. And some of the other people who were clients along with her were people from women-owned and minority-owned businesses in San Francisco. And what she did is she pushed to make sure that those businesses got their fair share of the tax dollars that they would put in, their fair share of the contracts and subcontracts. She was a fabulous client, although as another one of my clients here I know about, she also would get in your face and tell you just what she wanted you to do, but that's a good thing. The second thing that's very important that I want to share with you, I was trying to think of what I could say that might be different from what other people were going to say, and that's this. I'm going to date myself in a minute, because back in the day we were all part of the California Civil Rights Coalition, and when we wanted to have meetings we would actually mail people announcements of the meetings, and then there was this fabulous new thing called the fax machine where you could actually get people to the meetings more quickly and then email, and the rest is history. But I remember one day we had to get a mailing out, and it was interesting that her cousin said that she was a celebrity, because that's the word I couldn't quite find. She was a celebrity, but she sat down with all of us and stuffed the envelopes, put the stamps on. She may have been a queen, but the queen did the work. And that was something that stuck with me so deeply. Like, why was she doing this? She didn't have to do this. She could be all uppity and trippy, but she wasn't. She did the work. At the California Civil Rights Coalition, we were founded because Clarence Thomas at that time was the head of the EEOC, and I had, oh no, go ahead. And he was trying to put out some rules that would make it more difficult to prove employment discrimination. So we got together. One of the things that's important that Aileen did that we must all remember in these terrible times is she followed the teachings of Bayard Rustin, who was with Dr. King, who talked about the grand coalition, that we're all in this together. You can't just say, I'm for black rights, I'm for women's rights, I'm for environmental rights. We're all in this together, and we have to have each other's backs. And that's exactly what Aileen stood for. Her admirable qualities that we need to take in are many. I was talking with Christine Pelosi going, please tell me that Trump is going to fall on his face and he's going to go away. She went, nope, not right away. But she had an analysis of what's going on with the Republicans. They're wanting to transfer a lot of wealth. They're going to go along with Trump because he understands he's the way for them to get what they want. Aileen, were she around, would have a similarly analytical understanding of what's going on. We have to take this into ourselves to understand what's going on. It's pretty terrible what's going down, but we will ultimately prevail, but we must be analytical and strategic in our struggle. We also need to take into ourselves, as she did, our willingness to challenge inequities. She wasn't afraid. These are scary times, but it's more scary to do nothing. And Aileen, if she were still with us, she would be out there fighting Trump and Trumpism. Also remember, she was willing to do the work. It's important to give big speeches and the like, but we have to do the work, and that's what we have to take into ourselves. We also have to continue to resist the insanity of the present political moment. If Belva weren't here, I'd talk for a long time. As I've often said, I'm a magna cum laude graduate of the Fidel Castro School of Public Speaking. But Belva's back there, and so I'm going to stop. Aileen was fabulous. Seeing the stuff about her got me all emotional. She was quite something, and I hope we can take into ourselves all the goodness that she had, and there's a hell of a fight ahead of us, and Aileen would want us to stand firm. Thank you.
Thank you, Eva. Our next speakers are Elaine Ellison, American Civil Liberties Union, and Andrea Shorter from the San Francisco Department on the status of women.
That was the amazing Eva Patterson. Thank you, Belva. I'm Elaine Ellenson. Speaking on behalf of the A.C.L.U., we join you in mourning the death of Aileen Hernandez and celebrating the extraordinary life of this trailblazer. Aileen was not just a card-carrying member of the A.C.L.U. She was the vice chair of our National Advisory Council for more than 2 decades and the 1989 recipient of the highest award given by the A.C.L.U. of Northern California, the Chief Justice Earl Warren Civil Liberties Award. And when we heard of her death, all across the country, we were swapping stories about her. We were so lucky to have walked picket lines with her, walked marches with her, been to her holiday parties where the only price of admission was some food to give to the food bank. We always admired her elegant outfits, matching hats and suits, but she reminded us that when she first came to San Francisco, she could not try on clothes in department stores. They would let her buy the clothes, but not try them on. They would take money from black shoppers, but they would not allow them in the dressing room. I was lucky enough to interview and write about Aileen when she won the honor for our Bill of Rights Day in 1989, and I realized looking back at that interview that there was a recurring theme in her life, and this has been addressed by Mayor Brown, by Roma, by Eva, which is that she believed in justice for all. Even while she was working for one cause, she never forgot about others, and she strove to be inclusive even though it might have caused controversy. You have already heard about how she quit the EEOC because they didn't address sex discrimination. You've already heard about how she pushed NOW to address the issues of lesbians and women of color and to be against the Vietnam War. So I will just tell you one other anecdote about this. Aileen was a tenacious opponent of capital punishment. She was the founder of the first statewide organization against capital punishment called Death Penalty Focus. And for that, she was invited to MC the A.C.L.U's first Bill of Rights Day program in 1973, where leading death penalty attorney Anthony Amsterdam was being honored with the Earl Warren Civil Liberties Award. In the audience was none other than Chief Justice Earl Warren, who had just retired from the U.S. Supreme Court. But far from being starstruck or intimidated by the presence of the former Chief Justice, Aileen remembered something even more significant from that day. This is what she told me. This is a quote from Aileen. I remember the naming of the Earl Warren Award was not without controversy within the A.C.L.U., starting a dialogue which was to culminate 10 years later in the award given to Gordon Hirabayashi, Min Yasui, and Fred Korematsu. Many A.C.L.U. members will remember the eloquence of Edison Uno in expressing the concern about naming the award for Earl Warren because when he was governor of California, he oversaw and approved of the incarceration of Japanese Americans, a contrast with his later role as Chief Justice. The right of Edison to express his opinion caused Mr. Warren to reassess and to make his role public declaration that he believed the internment to be wrong. And the A.C.L.U. of Northern California also changed the name of the award to the Chief Justice Earl Warren Award. Aileen added, "The nation recognized the wrongness of the action and has alerted a new generation of Americans to the importance of the Bill of Rights." Those were Aileen's words. She never flinched from doing the right thing. She was the very definition of principled. Her brilliance, organizational skills, and passionate commitment to social justice shaped our whole generation. We are so lucky that we could learn from her close up. We thank you, Aileen. There is a lot more for us to do, and we promise to carry on the fight. We thank you. Now it is your turn to rest. Thank you.
Belva just said to me, time, because she knows how I am. I first heard of Aileen Hernandez when I was a little black girl in Indianapolis, Indiana in 1970s. And I was in a home economics course, or class, because you had to take home ec. Now, what I noticed is that girls had to take home ec. Boys, it was kind of optional if you wanted to take wood shop, but girls could not take wood shop. And this disturbed me. And I remember having read something or heard something of a woman named Aileen Hernandez. Now, at that time, I was very much an earful and very impressionable and looking to various figures in terms of what they were doing in the world to make things better for little girls like me. But I must admit, at the time, I didn't see many faces that looked like me. But when I heard Aileen and learned of Aileen, she inspired me to take some action. We were to make some kulaks. Women, do you remember kulaks? Now, why in the world? How do you come up with the word kulaks? But kulaks were just basically shorts. But they were more respectable because they just came just above your knee. And I decided then, you know what? I'm going to take a stand like Aileen Hernandez. And I said that I'm not going to make any damn kulaks. And my teacher, Mrs. Penn, who actually was one of the few African-American teachers at my school, PS School, Public School 72 in Indianapolis, said, girl, what are you doing? I said, Aileen Hernandez told me I don't have to make any kulaks if I don't want to. I'd rather take wood shop. Why can't I take wood shop? And she says, that's not how things work. And I said, well, we're going to see about that. So I proceeded to, while I was a model student, that was my first act of resistance. And I stood up for the girls in my class. And I said, anyone that wants to come with me and go make some birdhouses in the wood house or the wood shop, please come with me. And there were about 4 young women that did. Only one stayed, that was Christina Pruitt. And so it was the 2 of us. But that stayed with me and still continues to stay with me because it reminds me, as a child, you know what's right and you know what's wrong. And having the vision of Aileen and the spirit of Aileen in my heart at that time really changed my world. I was so honored to meet her when I moved to San Francisco in the early 90s, and I tagged along with Del Martin and Phyllis Lyon over to Aileen's house. I see some heads nodding. I think some people might have been in the room at that time. It was a chili, Saturday afternoon where we had a chili cook-off or something. And I trembled but I felt so welcome. And it was the right place to be with the right people at the right time, and especially Aileen. As the president of the Commission on the Status of Women for the City and County of San Francisco, I am absolutely honored to be able to express our appreciation, our continued guidance that we receive from Aileen on a myriad of issues, how to pursue equality, how to elevate the status of women, not only for the City and County of San Francisco, but to be a model in this nation and hopefully around the world. And so on their behalf, on behalf of the Commission, on behalf of the Department of the Status of Women, we will always always continue the work in Eileen's memory and in her spirit. She is a cornerstone, she is a foundation for institutions such as the Commission on the Status of Women. And I'll say one other thing, Belva. I was the first, and to date, as far as I know, the only president of the San Francisco National Organization for Women. And as an African American and a lesbian, that was a time when I met Aileen. She said, "Baby, it seems as though we've come somewhat full circle. There's still much work to be done. But you have what it takes because there's community, there's family and friends and allies with you. And never forget that." And she's the one that turned me on to Bayard Rustin in that moment. So Aileen, I personally thank you from the bottom of my heart and on behalf of the Commission and the Department.
Well, we're coming down to where we're running out of time. Gloria Steinem is sitting here, the choir's out there. But this woman has traveled all the way from New York City to be here today. And so we could not ask her to go home without telling the people who are trying to save Harlem, that Californians need to know they have friends on the other side of the world. Please welcome Valerie Jo Bradley.
Good afternoon. I'm so pleased that all of you have come out to honor my dear friend and mentor, Aileen Hernandez. I first met Aileen when I interviewed her for Jet Magazine. It was a feat to get the male-dominated management to agree that it was news that a black woman had assumed leadership of a national women's organization, and second, that her story deserved to be on the cover. Aileen's story was so compelling, and her cred for working to get marginalized women equal pay for equal work in the garment industry and other industries made her more than qualified to be covered. I guess that was the testament to Aileen's influence on a 25-year-old me that made me go the extra mile and demand that she get respect from her community's publication as she pushed the women's agenda to embrace us all. Aileen was the first person I called when I moved from Chicago to Berkeley to attend graduate school. However, it was not until I moved to San Francisco that our friendship grew deep, like the rivers that Langston Hughes speaks of in his poem, I've Known Rivers. As a charter member of Black Women Organized for Action, and would all BWA members stand? I was amazed about the impact we made on behalf of black women because Aileen created a non-threatening environment for us to thrive. We were about business and we got a lot of it done. I personally worked on a number of media issues, including challenging Norman Lear to open up the doors for black women to write for Good Times, and creating and editing the organization's monthly newspaper, and last, and a lot of fun, saving unsung shero Mary Ellen Pleasant's 8 eucalyptus trees. What obviously resonates most for me was Aileen's passion to encourage black women to run for political office. Numerous women, like Barbara Lee, stand on her shoulders. I inherited that zeal, In New York, I have worked with and for progressive women who have run for office. I backed and raised money for Jan Douglas, who ran for the empty congressional seat that John Lewis won in Georgia. I backed and was the fundraising chair for Peggy Shepard, now a leader in the national environmental justice movement. She ran up against an entrenched Harlem political leadership, but the important point is that she gave them a run for their money. A month ago, I was the treasurer for Cordell Clear's bid for city council in a special election. They drew her out of her district so that it would not encourage her to run for city council, but she ran nevertheless. And we are working, and although she didn't win, we're working on her campaign for the primary election. It took me 2 years to convince her to run, and it's because of Aileen that I stayed the course and encouraged her to be there. The point of all of this is that Aileen is responsible for encouraging me to step out there and represent. She saw my potential, and she gently pushed me to do more. All I know is that when I grow up, I want to be like her.
In just a moment, we will be hearing from the Glide Ensemble. Before that, I want to tell you about some people who are out there in the audience here today but will not be speaking today. Not because they don't want to, but our time is so short. Senator Mark Leno, former Mayor Art Agnos, Sophie Maxwell, former supervisor, Ken Montorio, head of the Ethnic Studies Department at San Francisco State, our chief of protocol, Charlotte Meyer-Schultz, Karen Compton, chief administrator for the law judges, Jane Morrison, Grand Dame at the Democratic Party, Lois Salzberg, public advocates. I remember them back and should, because here we have officers for justice and Fire Chief Denman out in the audience there, people they fought with and for, Will Esri from the BART Board, Frankie Gillette, and a list of others. But we will now ask the Glide Ensemble if they would come in.
Brought me back, yeah.
Ensemble, you will wake up, pacify, whatever it takes. When that music comes, whatever you're feeling, it disappears. And we will next introduce a woman who has been on the path, along with our keynote speaker. And I'm delighted that the two of them are going to come back to back. First of all, we waited a long time to hear from Gloria Steinem, but she's constantly been in Eileen's life. It was due to Gloria's efforts that her archives is at Smith College in Massachusetts. We want to acknowledge that and let her know how much we treasure that gift, because we all know after being here so long like the time, it's well worth it. Please welcome Gloria Steinem.
I was kind of worried about following music, but then it reminded me what an elegant dancer was Aileen. How many people here have, the Frug? How many people remember the Frug? Right there with mimeograph. The bump? She was great at doing the bump. Hello? Okay. However, I confess to you that when I planned this week's trip with the variety of activities here on the West Coast, that I I was hoping to see Aileen one more time on this trip. Yet I trust her judgment of time to leave, just as I trusted her judgment in every other way. And perhaps this leaves with me the last time I saw Aileen, when she was 100% totally her own self. And I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful for this gathering. The wonderful gift of gatherings like these is that we leave knowing the person we love better than we did when we came in. And so I thank each of you for the gift of your stories and your vision of Aileen that now will be totally with us. She was my friend and my teacher. She was only 8 years older than me, but she was definitely my teacher. A source of wisdom and laughter, a woman who was ahead of us all on the path to shared humanity and simple justice. Without Aileen, as we know, the EEOC would have been even later in opposing sex as well as race discrimination, much less understanding that many women experience both. Without Aileen, the big and fractious meeting, I don't know if any of you were at the hundreds of people meeting that founded the National Women's Political Caucus in 1971, but I'm talking fractious, okay, people who had come from all over the country just realizing that we were going to enter an electoral era and didn't even know each other. They all believed we needed an electoral arm to the women's movement, but few had worked together before, and there would have been no trusted chair to our meeting without Aileen. 3 days of chairing this, probably, I don't know how she did it, but there would have been no National Women's Political Caucus without Aileen. And personally, there are just so many things. Without Aileen, I mean, she always knew the solution to things, right? I remember arriving here in San Francisco with a big-time quandary because there was a very important women's organization that depended for its income on one annual benefit, and the benefit in the hotel in which the benefit was being held was being struck by the union. I called up Aileen, I said, help. You know, what should I do? And she arranged calmly to say, well, we'll film your speech and you'll be present without crossing the picket line. For those who didn't know her well, I hope that you will read everything you can find and watch the rest of the great interview on Makers. I mean, to me, the entirety of Makers is worth it because we have Aileen's interview. That's exactly what Makers was meant to do. And for those who did know her, I hope you'll tell others. Tell others about her spirit, her path-breaking, her historic importance. Remember that every time we allow a reporter or an academic or a well-meaning activist to say that feminism was ever a white woman's movement, you render the African-American women who disproportionately invented feminism, like Aileen, invisible. And I hope and pray that we will tell her story as part of an understanding of who really was there. I promise you that her valuable and voluminous collection of papers and photos, they're so valuable. They were all in her house, we remember, right? And I used to say to her, Aileen, you have to give them the archive, and she would know I have to sort them first, right? But I promise you that they will be at the Sophia Smith Collection at Smith College, which is the largest women's history collection in the world, and especially good about local organizing in addition to having Planned Parenthood and all the big groups. And I pledge to you that we will raise the money and everything we need to make all of her papers and valuable work available in person and online now, and in organizing courses. And we're all going to miss her, right? I really did think I would see her one more time, I have to say. But I will always do my best to live up to her personal friendship and her very high standards and her vision. And I think if each of us has some of this inside of us, and if we keep on sharing it with people who didn't know her, maybe we should make buttons. As Aileen said, we can all wear buttons. I believe that each of us, when we pledge this, to do it, to share her presence and her spirit and her purpose in our own best way, she will be with us now and forevermore. Thank you.
As Gloria was walking away, she said, "You made this happen." And I looked out there and I saw a woman in a blue jacket. She's on the fire commission. I don't know what her motivation was, but she spent 2 weeks with us packing Eileen's things to get to Smith. Francie Covington, stand up. And now another woman who's one of a kind, a poet laureate. Please welcome Janice Mirikitani, Poet Laureate for San Francisco 2004.
Thank you, Belva Davis, and thank you all who organized this event and bring us all together to honor our dear Aileen. I was worried about following Gloria Steinem, but, I realized that I've been following Gloria Steinem for several decades. As I have been following also Aileen Clarke Hernandez, the warrior woman leading the charge for justice in spaces where men of might thought they occupied, beautiful in her thunder that roared in chambers of sexism, brilliant as lightning, exposing racism embedded in all corners where racism tries to hide. Aileen's stride pushed myths aside about women's inequality and created new meaning to be woman, who is a good leader, good activist, a good woman, to be awesome. So awesome that she be bad. Bad women know how to cook. Create a miracle in a pot. Make something out of chicken feet, pig's feet, cornmeal, hog maw, fish head, fat backs, ribs, roots, soy, or red beans. Bad women celebrate themselves, dark as plums and coffee, light as cream and butter, gold as sun on lemons, red as cinnamon, brown as cola, plump as mangoes, skinny as tallow. Watch out, Mr. Trump, for bad women marching, fighting for equality, racial visibility, choice, educational quality, ending wage disparity. Bad women flaunt themselves, finger-popping, hip-shaking, big laugh, smart-thinking women, wise-mouth, hat-wearing, tangerine lipstick queens. Small and full-breasted women, fat-kneed, skinny-ankled women who dance without warning, wrap their women or their men around their waist, and boogie to the edge of dawn. Bad women resist violent love affairs, child abuse, and unsafe sex. Stir their tears in cups of compassion. Add some hot sauce wasabi, 5 spices, jalapenos, the salt of memory. Stoke the fires of history. Simmer in resilience. Make it taste like home. Bad women can burn. Aileen, the baddest and the best. Thank you.
Well, it's been a long but fruitful, more fruitful than long, love affair with Aileen. And you could feel her everywhere in this room, and we thank you so much for that. I will invite you now. There's a reception that's going to be held back in the back there. Come over and have some refreshments. The man who has the difficult job of closing down this parade of admirers for Aileen is the man from Third Baptist Church, and good thing he's a Baptist, so he knows what it's all about to have a long program. And he will end our program here this evening with the warm thanks of black women stirring the waters and their partners who pulled this all together in a very short period of time, and they could have only done it for a phenomenal woman. Reverend Amos Brown.
My friends, as the curtain closes on this splendid afternoon of celebrating the life, the love, and the legacy of our friend, Miss Aileen Hernandez. Given that San Francisco is basically a secular city, I'm not going to give a typical theocentric benediction. I think there could be possibly no more challenging word to conclude on than for us to be haunted by the words of H.L. Mickens, senior editor of the Baltimore Sun, who said 96 years ago, as democracy is perfected, the office of president represents more and more closely the inner soul of the people. On some great and glorious day, the plain folks of the land will reach their heart's desire at last, and the White House will be adorned by a downright moron. Dr. Benjamin Elijah Mays said the memorial services or funerals are held for 2 simple reasons. One, to extol the virtues and the legacy of the deceased. And 2, to give a challenge to the living. I challenge you to keep alive the legacy of this lady who was well poised, well prepared, well spoken, well read, well traveled, well dressed, and indeed well fought the good fight for freedom, inclusion, peace, and justice. And when we do that, we will kill the 2 enemies that were afoot in the land that she fought. Sexism in the black community. In this last election, we were reminded that the man from Utah, the Mormon man, got 6% of the black vote. But this moron in the White House got 8% of the black vote. Why did he get them? Because, Dr. Blake, there are too many chauvinistic black preachers in the pulpit. We must not become that which we hate. And if we don't want white folks discriminating against us, we got to get the discrimination of chauvinism out of the black faith community in these United States of America. And last but not least, if we shown up really loved, revered, and respected Ms. Hernandez, we must fight the good fight so that in city and county of San Francisco, we really live out our image and our brand of being liberal and progressive by making sure that Yosis, additions, and the black presence in the Fillmore remains there so that San Francisco will have black folks a part of the rainbow, and we will all be able to say, I'm black and I'm proud, I'm brown and I'm sound, I'm yellow and I'm mellow, I'm red but I ain't dead, I'm white and I'm all right, I'm a woman but I'm wise, I'm gay but I'm godly, I am indeed an immigrant but I am industrious. Then and only then will we show Sister Aileen that we loved her to the very end. God bless you. Have a great afternoon.
I'm gonna let no injunction turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let no injunction turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land.